Hey everyone, my name is RCJ officially, and this is Find a Book and Read. So I hope that you guys are all doing well, and before we continue on with this video, I want to go ahead and invite all of you who may not have done it, or if this is the first time that you're visiting, to please go ahead and consider hitting that subscribe button down below, and remember to make sure that you hit the bell notification and select all so that you know when I upload all my videos, and not just when YouTube says, hey, I think you might want to, maybe watch one of these videos today. Just get them all, Get all the notifications. Alright, so today we're going to be reviewing a book that I read actually a few months ago. I read back in the month of November, and I actually read this as part of a book club that I'm a part of, and this was actually the book that I decided to recommend for our club to read that particular month, and that book was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This was a very, very good read in my personal opinion, and of course, disclosure, this is all based on just my opinions, what I thought of the book and how I thought that the author did when writing the story. So let's go ahead and talk about this book. Alright, so Legendborn is a book about a young protagonist. Her name is Bree Matthews, and we follow Bree at the very beginning of the story having lost her mother. She's in a hospital with her dad. They're identifying her mother's body, unfortunately. At the hospital, she encounters some odd circumstances, but more than anything, it just kind of begins the story with kind of a dark tone a little bit, but that's not at all what the book is. It's a great story throughout the entire time. So the reason why Bree is so sad, aside from the fact that her mother just died, is because the last conversation that they had was about Bree having applied to a university that her mother didn't want her to apply to. So Bree is 16 years old. She's, I believe, a sophomore at the time of the accident, and she's going into this early college program at UNC, the University of North Carolina, and her mother, for some reason, did not want her to apply, but she and her best friend Alice had been wanting to get away from their hometown for the longest time, and so when they finally get accepted, the argument came about, and then unfortunately Bree's mom had a car accident, and that's kind of where, again, we begin the story. Moving forward then, the story does kind of develop really quick in a 3-month time period, it says, passes after that accident. And she and Alice are now at the university, but they're at a quarry, and at this quarry, the reason why they're even there is because they were invited by their friend from high school, Charlotte, and Charlotte is now a freshman at this place, and so it's tradition that freshmen jump off the cliff of this quarry that the seniors and juniors are hosting. They host a party out there, that's why they're there. And so they were invited to the party, by extension they were invited to maybe jump off the cliff, and so Alice is like, no, this is not a good idea. Bree's like, well, alright, we won't do it. But then she kind of takes the time to kind of be away. She starts to remember a couple of stuff in her mind, and in her deviation from Alice, then she encounters this guy named Selwyn. Selwyn later identifies as Sel because he's joined up by someone else. And the reason why that they're joined by someone else is because all of a sudden, Bree and Sel hear this sound of screaming coming from where the party's taking place. And so they rush over. It's super dark. Bree trips and falls, and she starts to question, how is it that Sel can get through and run quick without tripping, without any kind of accident? And so she's kind of thinking about that for some reason. Sel gets there nonetheless, and for some reason nobody can see what's going on except for Bree and Sel. So what's happening is that there's a fight that broke out, but at the same time, the reason for the ruckus and everything was because there is something magical happening. So Bree sees this light kind of above everybody's heads, and nobody seems to notice, but she kind of points out, hey, do you see what's happening? And then this guy's like, of course I see what's happening, I'm recording it. And the guy's referring to the fight that's happening between some football players, is kind of what the book says, but Bree is talking about this light that nobody else sees, which happens to be a demon called an E-Cell. And so Cell and this other person, it's a girl, come and they defeat the E-Cell, question it, why are you here? The E-Cell's like, well, I'm here to feast. Cell's like, well, why didn't you just feast near your gate? The E-Cell's like, that's not my gate, kind of like laughing and mocking Cell. So Cell's like, all right, well, you know what, then I don't need you. Kills the demon, and Bree, the whole time, is kind of hiding. She didn't present herself to Cell and this other person that came over to defeat the demon, and so she leaves, and as she's leaving with Alice, somehow they come back together after they find each other after the whole ruckus and everything of the fight. She is found by a sheriff at the parking lot. Obviously, again, they're not supposed to be at the quarry because it is off limits after a certain hour of the night, so she gets in trouble. Remember, keep in mind that she's 16 years old at an early college program at a college campus. So the president or the dean of the school then tells her, I'm going to assign to you a mentor. And Bree's reluctant because she's got all these mixed emotions going on. And of course, the person that is going to mentor her is going to be her love interest eventually. And you'll see that kind of start to develop very fairly quickly as the characters of Bree and the mentor Nick, who is our other main character, they have a huge connection, and it's very important to the story, and I don't want to get more into it. But what ends up happening is Nick also has an encounter with Bree and a demon, and so then the question of this organization called Legendborn comes about. And I forgot to mention that earlier in the quarry, when Cell and this other person are fighting the demon, the E-Cell, the demon refers to Cell as a mage, a Legendborn, and so that's where Bree is like, what's with all that? You know, you must have some kind of a second personality or something going on. And of course, there is a lot going on. But the interesting part is that somehow all of what's happening is connected to the accident that her mother had. And so that also ties in. So not only is she dealing with all the emotional stress going on, but now somehow this Legendborn organization has something to do with the death of her mother, or at least that's what Bree thinks. And so she asks Nick to help her get into the organization. Nick is a little reluctant, but then decides to go ahead and help her, and then crazy stuff happening throughout the book, and it's just a really good book. So this is, and it's always described anywhere you see it on the internet, on YouTube, on Bookstagram, or Book Twitter, they refer to this book as a retelling of King Arthur, which it is. And so, again, without spoiling very much more, there is a lot of magic, there is a lot of fighting, there's a lot of just great stuff within this story. And at the very, very end, there's a crazy plot twist that I thought was kind of crazy. But if I'm being honest, I did kind of a little bit see it coming. Nonetheless, it was still shocking to read and get to that ending. I love the book. I thought it was amazing. It is a long book. It's about 500 or so pages, but it is a great read. And it is a super, super well written story. I thought that Tracy Deonn did an amazing job with developing the characters, with pacing the story. Nowhere did I ever feel like the book was slow. And that's what I love. I love that a book is always fast paced. It tells you about new characters, but they develop everything very quickly. The one thing that did get confusing at times was that there are so many characters that get introduced. It started to get a little bit difficult to remember certain character names and who they were, how they were connected. So if I have a complaint, that might be it. But again, other than that, this was just an overall great story, and I loved reading this book. My rating for it, of course, we'll go ahead and do this out of 5 stars, is a 5-star rating. It was actually my favorite book that I read last year, even though I read a few books last year. But again, this is the whole me starting to read and everything, and I thought it was a great read. Definitely up there next to Children of Blood and Bone for me. I love both of those books, but Legendborn does have a pretty high place in my favorite books now. So we'll see how the rest of this story continues, because it does end off on a cliffhanger, and it is the first book in a series called Legendborn. So Tracy, please hurry up and get that second book out. Super excited to read it, and I hope that you guys go ahead and pick this book up as well. So that's it for me, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't. Remember to hit the bell notification so that you get all the notifications for this channel. And Comment down below, let me know if this is a book that sounds interesting to you. Again, the characters are so great, the story's well written, well paced. You're not gonna wanna put this book down, and even though it's a long read, it's gonna be so exciting that you're gonna be like, whoa, how did I get to the end so quickly? And you're gonna want that sequel like I want that sequel too. So again, thank you all for watching. I'll see you on the next video, and until then, find a book and read. Take care, everyone.